Hello everyone and welcome back to the BASILISK YouTube channel, where I'm of course still Kevin McCoy, also known as RotterdaM, and we are still here live at the Dreamhack Masters Atlanta, and we just wrapped up our second day of StarCraft 2. It was a very long day. It started early in the morning with the knockout bracket, as they call it, and we actually had an amazing fixture to kick the day off with. It was Maru versus Hero. Maru, one of the all-time greats of StarCraft 2, duking it out with the reigning champ of the Dreamhack Masters Atlanta, as Hero won here last year. It was a good series. It was a bit messy and it went to distance, like many of the series went to distance today, but that's obviously what StarCraft nerds are looking for. We don't want trios or barely a 3-1. No, we want to see games go to game 5. We had plenty of that, and Maru Hero was just an example of it. Hero in the end came out victorious, so we already said goodbye to one of the biggest names in the tournament at the very first series of the day, basically. Now, while that was happening, we had a bunch of other games happening in that first round of the knockout bracket. A couple of results made sense, and a lot of people were definitely surprised by the 3-1 victory over RotterdaM versus Reynor. Reynor came in a day late. He was a bit under the weather, like many of us, including myself, which is why I may sound a little bit strange right now, but the home story cup fever hit hard. But overall, Reynor looked to be in better spirits today, so people had high hopes, but the captain has just continued, the captain being RotterdaM, that's his nickname, his very strong performance over the last few weeks. Played great at the home story cup, played great on the first day here of the Dreamhack Masters Atlanta, and he had a very strong showing against Reynor, and in the end got the job done with a 3-1 victory. A lot of the other results in the first round were kind of to be expected, so then a lot of eyes were on RotterdaM, like, can he continue his magical journey here at Atlanta? Unfortunately, his run got stopped in the second round by none other than Oliveira himself. The current reigning world champion of StarCraft 2 had a very bad first day, played 2 series, lost both of them 0-2, so he started in round 1 of the knockout bracket because he was a seeded player, but he had a strong win over Laser and an even better win over RotterdaM. So then people started keeping their eyes on Oliveira, like, hey, is it happening again? Could we potentially repeat what we saw in Katowice, give or take 7 months ago? We'll cover that later. In the third round of the knockout bracket, we obviously had a bunch of good fixtures. I was kind of excited to see how Lambo was going to do against Classic, as our German Zerg started all the way in the beginning of the tournament, won a whole bunch of games to get where he was at. Unfortunately for him, his journey ended when he went up against Classic. Hero Marine also had a very good run, as Hero Marine actually did what Maru couldn't, and that is defeat Hero in the knockout bracket. Unfortunately for Big Gabriel, as they call the German Terran, he ran into Solar, and Solar proved to be a little too much to handle in that final round of the knockout bracket. So we had a very action-packed morning with a lot of games. It's impossible to watch all of them, but following the results alone is already very fun. And that meant that eventually we had a top 8. And since tomorrow we're going to do a bunch of other stuff than just StarCraft on our stage, where there are some show matches in the beginning of the day of Stormgate, the exciting upcoming RTS. Today we also played all 4 quarterfinals, and all 4 of them were going to be played on the mainstream. We were supposed to start off with the TVT, but Bjorn had a very long series against Gumiel, so we couldn't start with the TVT. But to make sure we didn't have 3 hours of downtime, we kicked things off with the ZVP, and Classic, just like he was in Gamers 8 4 months ago, was the only Protoss player in the top 8. A lot of Protoss nerds in the audience are like, all right, please, one time, give us a Protoss that can have a bit of a run, because we know that they're capable of it. We see it online, and we know that the Protoss race is honestly in a pretty all-right spot at the moment. Unfortunately, Classic could not get the job done against Dark. I mean, Dark, the seasoned veteran, is an ultimate big game player, believes in himself, shows up. Game 1 and Game 2 were very messy games where I was loving Classic's position, and I was like, oh, come on, like, don't let this happen again. It was a bit of a repeat of what happened in Saudi, where he was looking good against Cure but couldn't close games out. Today it was kind of the same. I ran into Dark backstage afterwards, and I said, like, Dark, congrats, played very well. I was like, but Game 1, the game with all the Mutalisks, as Dark lost over like 100 Mutalisks in a 15-minute game, which is unheard of in professional ZVP. If you make that many Mutas, you've either won or you've lost the game, but apparently with Dark, you can just keep on going. And Dark was like, 50-50, and I was like, I think you're in trouble, Dark. And he started laughing. He's like, yeah, I was in trouble. So he agreed, but yeah, he found a way to win, and that's obviously all that matters. So unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to Classic, who did win game 3, but in game 4, Dark was just overwhelming. I would say it was a well-deserved victory by Dark. Then it was time for our TVT, which made things a little bit chaotic because people like building Cyclones right now. Beyond and Cure took the stage. Beyond, of course, the world champion of StarCraft 2 in the year 2016. Battling out with Cure, a very fun series, one that did go to distance, 3-2 in the end. A lot of Cyclones, a lot of Sensor Towers, a lot of Marine Tank, but a very exciting final game on Solaris, where Beyond kind of fell for the same thing that he often fell for in the past, where he just stays on Marine Tank, and he expands, and he tries to win the game, but some of these guys, like Maru, like Cure, they go for different compositions, and even though it feels like they're getting bullied, they're not quite getting bullied because they're comfortable with where they're at, they're comfortable with where they go, and in the end it turns out that Raven Viking tank is better than Marine tank. So we had to say goodbye to Beyond as well. Then Cure is going to advance into the semi-finals. Our third quarterfinals was an absolute banger because it was Solar versus Clem. And even though Clem has defeated Solar a few times, Clem had never defeated Solar at an offline event. Honestly, I think this was a very highly anticipated quarterfinals because Clem has been widely regarded by a lot of nerds out there as the best Terran in the world. And I know that's crazy because we have all the good Korean Terrans, but when Clem is on, oh, he is really on. And it just feels that everything the kid touches turns into gold. Played an amazing best of 5, had to work for it. It went to distance, but in the end, Clem came out on top. I think a really fun series overall. Yeah, loved it. Very nice for the kid. Sucks for Solar, because Solar obviously our rating GSL champ. We also like to see him have a deeper run, but Solar has been here, done that. Clem has still never won a big offline international StarCraft 2 event. Everyone knows he's got the skills, and it's not a question of if, it's a question of when Clem is going to win offline, and that makes tomorrow a very exciting day to look forward to. But in that semi-finals, Clem had to duke it out with the winner of our last quarterfinals, Oliveira against Serral, world champion versus world champion, TVZ, the champion of Katowice this year against the champion of the ESL Summits, aka Dreamhack Masters, Jan Chapping. Was a pretty fun series, but overall Serral just kind of looked invincible. Lost the second game where Oliveira played well, and he brought a bit of that Katowice fire and magic. He got a little bit of that Oliveira fist pump that all the nerds love to see, but Serral looked kind of unfazed, kept it together, played incredibly solid in game 3 and game 4. And meant that Serral in the end closed it out with a 3-1 victory, and that means that we've got 2 semi-finals to look forward to. First, it's an all-Korean semi-finals, Dark against Cure. I don't know, it's very hard to make a prediction about it. Dark has the experience on his side, and Dark does shine on these stages, but Cure is an animal and did make it to the finals of Gamers 8, so I'd say it's pretty close. And that second one is the all-European semi-finals between the Wonder Kid, that is Clem, versus the GOAT, that is Serral. I can't wait. I think our final day of the Dreamhack Masters Atlanta is going to be amazing. Second day was long. It was awesome. I had fun. I think a lot of the people here had fun. People were loving their games. They were very passionate, cheering for their favorite players, or honestly, just kind of cheering for StarCraft, and that's what we love to see. That was it. Second day is a wrap. We'll be back tomorrow for the final day of the Dreamhack Masters Atlanta.